And we are live. What is going on, everybody? It is your girl, Martha D. Staub, owner of MDMC Entertainment. And today is episode 13 of Business Building and Beyond. And I have a very special guest from my very own hometown, Mr. John LeMay. What is going on, John?
Hey, Martha. It's good to see you.
Good to see you, too. I miss you. It's been a while.
It's been a long, long time.
When's the last time we saw each other?
Well, I honestly don't know. Like, since college, I don't remember, like, when we've actually seen each other in the flesh, but I'm sure we have.
Yeah, I don't remember. I don't know. It's been like a blur. I don't know. But I appreciate you. You hang out with my mom every now and then. So,
yeah.
Small
town life. Everybody knows everybody.
Man, I tell you. So how's Roswell? Has it changed any since I've last been there? Has it,
I think big event since you left is they built the UFO outside of McDonald's. I don't think that was there yet.
No, it was there. I remember. Wow. Yeah, no, I can't wait. I'm actually going to be home next week. So I'm going to, we got to hang out, have a beer.
Cool. Yeah, because if we can find somewhere to go, right? Or just maybe at your mom's house, huh?
Yeah, just hang out on the porch. I mean, that's what we used to do. It's me and my mom, I tell you, my mom, over the years, like we just would pop a beer open on the porch and just sit there and watch it. I remember there was one time we had those really nice, fluffy patio chairs and, super bougie, and we were just out there. We slept outside one time. We were just chilling one afternoon. It was just, I don't know. Whenever I'm actually going to be in New Mexico here soon. So I'm going to do a behind the scenes stuff of that so everyone can see what I'm talking about because they probably
told me y'all would watch your neighbor's daughter sneak out of the house at night and she would crawl through the window and y'all would watch her.
I've done that too. But that's another story for another day. Okay. So I debated on this. I thought I met you in middle school, but I went to Mesa, Berendo, and we were joking around thinking this was a Mandela effect.
Yeah. I think it was because we both have the same memory. So
it's just weird. Okay. And then so we went to Goddard and I don't remember how we met there. It's kind of a blur. It's way too long ago.
Yeah,
but I know
friends with, Casey Cordova and Chris Cardona.
Yeah. Oh, rest in peace.
Part of our connection. Yeah.
Oh my God. So I had a memory pop up from Chris when I was living in North Carolina. He sent me a message on Facebook or it was on a wall post. And he's like, hey, I've just been thinking about you. I hope you're doing okay in North Carolina. And I was going to share it and be like, but I was like, no, I don't feel like talking about it because people are going to say, who's Chris? And I'm like, no, I don't want to. And then Casey, I was actually talking to Casey last night. So yeah. And then we went to college, went to ENMUR. And then we had a couple classes together there too, I think.
I can't remember that, but you said philosophy, right?
I remember philosophy because I remember we sat next to each other and I fell asleep in that class. And you were like, yo, wake up. And I was like, oh, and I forget that guy's name. Oh, God. Okay. So obviously that's the last memory I have. And then I took off and went to ENMU. And what did you do after that?
I was content. I've never left Roswell. I'm terrible. Never left. Always lived here. That's it. So.
Are you just gonna?
What happened is my family owned a business. We had a mobile home park, and I would just help my dad with that. And most of my day was mostly watering lawns and mowing lawns, and that was it. And I really like it. I kind of missed it because we sold the business 4 years ago now.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Okay. So did you finish college, or did you just abruptly stop to become a writer? How did that happen? Fill in the blank for me.
Yeah, in hindsight. I don't think I even really needed to go to college because I'm not using anything too much that I learned. The only thing that I think I've really used a lot of was my English class with Kate Davis. And
I think I remember her.
Really got me interested in writing nonfiction again. And because, when you're a kid and you have to write reports for school, it's so grating and boring and no fun. And Kate, I just remember, let us pick our own research topic to do our big paper on, and I did mine on remnant dinosaurs like the Loch Ness Monster. I had a lot of fun doing it. Now I'm writing books on cryptozoology and things like that. So my English class in college, I feel like, is the only thing I really needed from college in hindsight. But I think everybody feels a little bit that way, that we all took classes in college that we probably didn't really need to take too bad. So that's the only one I feel like right now that's really benefiting my life. And then philosophy I love just because I love it, and I think we have a really great teacher for that too, Dr. Rigsby.
There you go, Rigsby. I remember
Yeah.
him. He was fun. I think philosophy, I mean, I love, I became a history nut really young. My dad, I was an only child. So my mom and dad took part of the responsibilities of my mom gave me the girly stuff and my dad gave me like the sports stuff. And then he was really into history. So I got into, the Egyptian pyramids early, the Aztecs, the Incas, all that stuff. And then that turned into like an obsession that I still have. And I loved doing those types of classes like philosophy. I remember I took psychology with Dr. Chavez. Do you remember him? Lloyd Chavez?
Right.
So he was the first teacher I had who was he would talk about conspiracy theories just in psychology class. Like I didn't learn psychology, I learned conspiracy. So that whole semester I had a blast. I was like, oh man, I got to come back for next. I think I took another like adult psychology and it was still conspiracy theory. And I was like, hell yeah, I aced that class. He was great.
Yeah, so we both remember the same two classes mostly from college. That was the other one I didn't mention was, Dr. Chavez's psychology class. I loved that. And I learned a lot from that too.
Yeah, no, he's uber smart. I hope he's okay. Is he still in Roswell? Do you know?
I've seen him recently within the past year, and he looked good, so I think he's okay. Unless something's changed since then, but
okay, cool.
Dr. Rigsby though is off in Asia somewhere, Cambodia, someplace wild. I don't know.
Yo, he seemed the type though. Like he's the one that if I didn't have responsibilities, I'd be doing the same thing. I'd be live off of my backpack and just go around the world.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's awesome. So then what year did you write your first book?
So I started out actually writing a fictional novel, which I still haven't really finished. So I was 19. But what happened is I knew I kind of wanted to get into the writing game, and I didn't know that I envisioned doing it like professionally per se. But what happened was we've been talking about conspiracy theories. There used to be this website called mystrangenewmexico.com, which is just a bunch of strange New Mexico lore. Had you ever heard of it?
I've read it.
Oh, awesome. Okay, great. So I would send the website author Mike Smith, I would send him little things I knew about the state or New Mexico, and he eventually told me, well, you know so much, how about you do a spinoff called the Roswell edition of My Strange New Mexico?
Yeah.
And so I started doing that for him, and I wrote some columns, and it was a lot of fun. And then he had done a book for Arcadia Publishing on the Sandia Mountains outside of Albuquerque, and he said, Arcadia, they really want Roswell, obviously because of the UFO crash, and Arcadia, they didn't know who to reach out to in Roswell, because if they'd smart, they would have got Elvis Fleming, who was the main historian for the Historical Society here in town.
I remember.
But because they didn't know him, they ended up getting me. And so I went to research the book at the Historical Society, and Elvis was very gracious. He's not what you'd call a territorial research. He was happy to help me, and so Elvis and I became friends, and that's so doing the Images of America Roswell, which is mostly pictures. You get vintage images, like pre-1960s, and just do really a bunch of captions. So it was an easy first book. It's like maybe I shouldn't use this term, but like an adult picture book, or a picture book on an adult level of historical photos.
Right.
Yeah. So I guess I would say if you're a nonfiction writer that really wants to break into the business, Arcadia or the History Press is a really great, easy way to do that, to get your foot in the door. So that's how I got my start.
So I heard that Nemi was haunted. I think Juliet Tower, is that right? Did you ever talk about that
before?
Okay. And then outside on the pecan orchards, I think on Sycamore, no, is it not Sycamore? On College or Country Club? I forget. But I know that people have seen figures walking across into the pecan orchards at one point. I remember reading that on that site too.
Okay, and then a lot of that information, you might know them because they were a big part of, or still are a big part of ENMUR, is Isidro Gonzalez, the Spanish teacher, and
Mm-hmm.
then Frank Gonzalez, who ran the PE center. So they both were the ones who told me about the legend of the little boy from the pecan orchards. Who,
There you go, that one.
yeah,
That's crazy. I didn't think, besides everyone that I've met here in California, when they ask me where I'm from, I said I'm from Roswell, and they're like, "Oh, Area 51." I said, "No, dumbass, that's
yeah,
Nevada." Like,
uh,
and I know the UFO crash. I mean, I have watched so many episodes of Ancient Aliens. Like, like I said, I'm a true history buff. I love history. Um, and I've heard certain things of what happened to the UFO that when it crashed, it went to Wright-Patterson in Ohio. Um, and then, I think the first year when we did the first UFO festival, I remember Oprah was in town. Will Smith went to Taco Bell. Like, this whole thing, it turned into a huge thing. And then the government said it was a weather balloon and these were dummies and shit. Do you believe the official story, or do you really believe something crashed out here?
let me put these on so I look smarter. And I'm gonna put, no, I will vouch for these blue light glasses. When you stare at a screen all day, they're really good for you. And yeah, so these are great stuff. Um, okay, no, I don't believe it's a weather balloon. I mean, it's just like in real life. When different people are telling you different stories and you know something's up, you know something's fishy,
Yeah,
because if there was any truth, they would just tell the truth and it would be over with. So you can always tell when people are trying to hide something.
right.
Um, so for me, I guess how I judge it, since you and I both weren't born until the 80s, and the UFO crash happened in the 40s. So all
Hmm.
you can go off of is people who actually lived in Roswell in the 40s, and all the ones that I met, are very respectable people, that I don't think are storytellers who are telling lies. And um, now, of course, some people can argue that, okay, so and so who was at the crash, they wrote a book about it and they're profiting from it. But I mean, why wouldn't you write a book about a historical event that you were a part of? And then
Exactly.
there's a lot of people who didn't write books who also talk about the crash, and kind of I hear the same stories from different people around town. So I tend to believe it more because of the people around town that are trustworthy.
Hmm. Yeah. I think there was a professor at ENMU. He was a big UFO guy. I remember I was in the computer lab,
Don Burleson, he's a nice
there
guy.
you go.
Yeah.
Him. So he, like, I remember being in that computer lab doing those stupid labs, and I would hear him talking about like the crash and stuff. And I find it funny that, after the crash, Roswell just has never grown since then. I feel like Roswell got stuck in time, and I feel like it's by design. I don't know if you feel the same way, but ever since the crash, we were thriving. We had a military base, we had all of these amazing things, and now it's just like a dead land. Like, no disrespect, you used to live there, but I feel like there's growth is being halted for a reason. I don't know. Is
Here's
that
an
a stretch?
interesting conspiracy theory. That there is a conspiracy theory as to why that happened, but it has nothing to do with the aliens. But it's still a decent conspiracy theory. The airbase closed down in 1967, and the
Mhm.
rumor is that it got shut down because Roswell didn't vote for Lyndon B. Johnson in the presidential election, so he shut it down. That's the boring.
I didn't know that.
So
Hmm. Okay. So you touch on, I mean, I looked at your list of titles that you sent over, and there's 23 titles so far. And a lot of them caught my eye. One thing that the one topic I love out of New Mexico history, and this is outside of Roswell, but it's Billy the Kid.
hmm
Now, I just got an Emilio Estevez print signed, and and it was from, everyone would be like, let's get a Mighty Ducks print. No, I wanted Billy the Kid because there's talk of possibly opening up a Roswell office at some point, and I want that picture hung
yeah,
in that office. But I love the way Young Guns portrayed the story of Billy the Kid. I almost think it's probably the most accurate to an extent, because there was a time when he actually went down to Las Cruces when he was evading capture,
yeah.
and then this part two talked about brushy Bill Roberts. I personally believe Now I don't know if you, because I haven't read your book yet, because I actually read the sample from Apple, and so I don't know what you wrote, but I personally believe Billy the Kid escaped that night. I don't think he was captured. I don't think he died. I don't think his. I saw a post where you said Billy the Kid's grave was on a road, not on the pen. I don't think he died. I think he lived a life. What is your take on that?
Well, my take is I want to believe he escaped because I think that's kind of neat. Um, I didn't used to believe in Brushy Bill a whole lot, but Brushy Bill was connected to the Jesse James claimant, J. Frank Dalton. And a
Mm-hmm.
lot of stuff recently is coming to light that J. Frank Dalton might have really been Jesse James.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I I don't want to be one of those where it's like, oh, I can't say what it is, but I know about it and I'm important. I hate that kind of attitude. It's not like that. It's just somebody shared some stories with me recently, and it's their stories to publish and make public one day. So
Yeah.
I won't elaborate on the details, but that does sound like there's really good chance that maybe J. Frank Dalton might have been Jesse James, and if he was Jesse James and he claimed that his friend Brushy Bill was really Billy the Kid, then maybe he was. So there might be some interesting developments in terms of that in the next few years, maybe.
Well, the only reason I say that is because, Pat Garrett was friends with Billy the Kid. Like, who kills their best friend, or
No.
who kills a friend? Like, I just don't, I never got, even back then, I never got that idea of that happening. And, I've gone down to Lincoln, I've gone through the museums and everything. And it's just one of those things that does not sit well with me. I don't, and then I saw it on Unsolved Mysteries.
Mhm.
And I'm like, no, I think this dude lived. I have to believe, like, because he was he was a hot shit back in the day. Like, I can't imagine him dying at the hand of a friend. I don't get it.
There's definitely a lot of discrepancies in Pat Garrett's police report for that night as well, which may not have been to cover up the fact that the kid didn't die. It might have just been to cover up the fact that maybe he didn't do his job entirely the way he should have, and he was trying to make himself look a little better. But there's definitely a lot of suspicious things in his police report, and just a lot of,
Mhm.
even about Billy the Kid's escape from the Lincoln County jail before that. There's a lot of discrepancies in those accounts. So yeah, just like the Roswell incident, there's something kind of fishy about it.
I mean, again, I watch a lot of Ancient Aliens. I don't know. I feel like it just obviously something happened. I don't know why it's still being hidden. I mean, I think we're pretty all awake, for the most part. I guess I think it's just honestly being hidden for, to not cause mass hysteria, because,
I really felt like it was no coincidence that they released some of the UFO stuff during the Corona pandemic and everything else, because people are so distracted by that, they don't really have time to worry about the aliens. So that's kind of my take on it.
it's 2020. I've been expecting the aliens since like June to come.
Yeah.
It's nothing surprises me anymore. This year has been such a shit show. But when they released all that, I was really hoping, because there is someone I follow on YouTube. His name, oh God, Secure Team 6. I have to share it with you. I don't know. This guy, I don't know how he gets footage, but he has over 1 million subscribers on his YouTube channel, and he's been reporting on this stuff for a very long time. And he got stopped by, I guess, the Men in Black type figures, and he's been followed. Someone caused his accident, and then he just completely said, "I'm done," and he left 1 million subscribers on YouTube. And I'm like, holy crap! Like, you know, I get it. We all understand there's probably something out there, but why protect it so violently? I don't know. It's just weird.
Something
I
I
know.
have to touch on this because you brought up the Men in Black, but I have a co-author in Texas named Noe Torres, and he and I do a series called The Real Cowboys and Aliens, which is about Old West newspaper articles that talked about UFOs. And we were so shocked we found at least 5 articles about the Men in Black in conjunction with UFOs all the way back in the Old West. is really shocking. You wouldn't think. And one of them really cracked me up because it was a lot like the Men in Black movie, which is a
Mm-hmm.
comic. In the films they have their black cars that they can hit a button and they can fly, and all that. Funniest thing, again, you got to realize this article was written in the 1870s, long before that movie ever came out, and it
Right.
has a man in black getting in a futuristic horse and buggy carriage and flying off. That's really the article. And it's for sure. It was published in 1870, whatever it was. It's not
Mm-hmm.
something they made up recently. You can look at the actual article, and it's just so weird how sometimes art will imitate life
Right.
in those crazy, crazy ways you would never expect.
Well, I mean, I think that's I'm going off on a tangent here, but I think that's a bit of a programming. I think we're being conditioned for that to happen. Uh, without YouTube giving me a strike here, but I think what we see in the movies has already happened, and I think that there's, because in Hollywood, I know that the CIA has an office in Hollywood, so someone is okaying
Yeah.
everyone to see what we see. So what we're probably seeing now is probably what was already in use maybe 5 years ago. That's my theory. I don't have any concrete
Yeah.
proof. I'm just speculating as a fellow uh, outside thinker. So I have to ask, because I do, like I said, big ancient aliens person. Have you thought about writing something about Dulce, New Mexico?
No, I only really write what I know, and I don't know much about Dulce, but I definitely think it's interesting.
I totally think there's something there. I was going up because I have family in Farmington, and it's
Okay.
weird because when you go up to Farmington, it's a lonely road, and it
Mhm.
is just. And I saw, like, we stopped to get gas. Me and my mom went. I think it was a couple years ago, and you see the signs that they'll say that way. And we get to the gas station. We're just getting our stuff. All of a sudden, we see 3 government vehicles come up.
Mhm.
And I'm like, holy shit, we're close to Dulce. How much you want to bet these people are headed there? And it just
Yeah.
seems odd because my partner in crime was in the military, and I'm like, hey, what do you think this is about?
Yeah.
He's like, I don't know. I was in the Marine Corps. I don't know any of this stuff, and he does not think like I think. It's very funny,
Mm.
but but it was weird because they were just so dressed. It just seemed odd to be in the middle of nowhere, to have government plates, and that was the only thing I'd ever seen that just kind of surprised me. And I was like, man, they probably know I think this way. Like, you just start to get paranoid.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I think it's interesting. I think, there's definitely, I mean, Whip is down in Carlsbad. I think they said there's a connection from Whip to Dulce, and that makes sense because if you want to dump all the
They
shit you're
say to
working on, you go to Whip.
The Roswell base as well, supposedly that all the bases in New Mexico are connected through underground tunnels. I've heard a lot of really maybe more down to earth reputable people claim that.
So what is your process when you get into a topic like this? Like, you've gone into the UFO stuff, and you've gone into, the Billy the Kid, the Pat Garrett things. What is your process? Do you find sources that can back up your claims when you write your book? Because obviously you got to avoid not getting sued. So how do
Yeah.
you process in doing that to do it freely without getting any sort of, pushback?
So, with Billy the Kid, obviously there's nobody alive to interview about it anymore. So with that, you've got to stick to old documents, and I have the archives at the Historical Society in Roswell at my disposal to use for that, and it's really helpful. Now, for one book I did though called Roswell, USA, I interviewed people who had had strange experiences here in Roswell. And one lady, for instance, she worked at what was the old base hospital. So the
Mm-hmm.
old base hospital where the alien bodies were taken was converted into the New Mexico Rehabilitation Center. I forget the year, but point is it was the same building, and she saw an alien ghost. And it wasn't a thing where she made money off of it, and she didn't really. It wasn't something either where she sought publicity. So that whole New Mexico Rehabilitation Center was haunted. It wasn't just alien ghosts. There was all sorts of ghosts in there, and the coworkers would all talk about it. Had you ever heard of it?
I mean, I used to pass by it when I go to college, when I went down to E&M, and I always got a weird feeling every time passing it. I'm like, that just doesn't look like, and I thought it was abandoned. Is it functioning now? Has it
Now
always
it's
been
torn down.
functioning?
It's torn down and it's in a totally new building. So
I don't know, man. It's just weird. I get a weird feeling. Even going through the last time I was in Roswell, I make it a habit to go around the city to see stuff, back in the day, and reminisce, and just driving around the old base and around that area. It's just something is just it's not right. There's just an energy thing, and I don't know. I can read energy sometimes, but it's just something's just weird. I remember when. Do you remember when KRQE used to? Was it KRQE? The one that was in town, KBIM. I remember when the UFO thing happened. It was our first one ever. They got some weird girl on there. She's like, "There's a weird vibe here in Roswell." I'm like, "Oh my god, shut up!" But but coming back, it's like, huh? You kind of just. It's an interesting place. I don't know. I mean, I had a telescope when I was growing up. I'd always look up to the sky. I always thought if something happened, it could happen again. I don't know.
yeah.
Just a thought. Okay. So I'm looking through your titles. I need to ask, what inspired you to write the big book of Japanese giant monster movies, The Lost
So I
Film?
love Godzilla movies. That's everybody has a like their number one thing that they're a fan of. Like, is your number one thing Power Rangers? Am I right, or is it something else?
Oh my God. No, I'm kind of lumped into this Power Ranger thing because, and it's funny, I just had a uncle of mine, and I had just talked to him, like, or not an uncle, a cousin. I just talked to him a couple of weeks ago. And I'm like, MDMC Entertainment, we work with small multi-million dollar businesses grow their entities. But the entertainment side started out in Star Trek, and then it didn't become really profound until I started working with Power Rangers. And so now when I went to a con in El Paso, my cousin's like, "Oh, I went to go look for the Power Ranger." I'm like, "I don't even work for that guy. I'm here with, I was there with Mindy Sterling from Austin Powers, and I'm just like, and it's that thing that I'm stuck in, and I just can't get out of it. But it's the one thing that, people know me for. But, Power Rangers season 1 to 5. I mean, other than that, I don't know anything else that happened. But,
Okay.
but yeah, I don't know. What's my thing? Oh God, I'm a nerd. I like all things. I like superhero movies. I'm a big,
You like one thing above all the others, probably, right?
probably like Wonder Woman is like my big thing. I mean, she's hanging right here.
Well, Godzilla was always my number one thing out of just Superman and Batman. I like all that stuff, but Godzilla was number one. And I just yeah, so that's a funny story about self-publishing when you talk about that book. So
Hmm.
I think that was like my seventh book or something like that. And I just wanted to do my own review on those movies just because I love them, and other people had done that. It wasn't a novel book by any means. And the funny story on that one was I knew I was going to self-publish it, and I had no faith in that book whatsoever. Again, I kind of just wrote it for fun. And as
Hmm.
I was setting it up, I thought I was setting up the Kindle copy because I
Hmm.
thought nobody's going to buy a print edition of this book, which has no pictures in it. Um, and it turned out I was actually setting up the print edition by accident, and I'd done so much work with all the steps and everything. I figured, well, I'll go ahead and publish a print copy then, since I've already done all this work.
Yeah.
But the irony of the story was just that the print copy outsells the Kindle edition like 5 to 1. And you hear
Really?
everybody say that print books are dead, but all of my sales for every book I've ever done, uh, print copies are still higher, at least 2 to 1 with every single copy I've ever done. So it's really interesting. But
I like a print book. I know I have a couple books I buy on my iPhone because there's times where I can't sleep and I'll flip through it and I'll buy a couple things here and there. But like a print book is just, there's nothing like it. I
yeah.
mean,
Well, again, Kindle, it's hard on your eyes after a while, so that's
hmm.
it's so much easier on your eyes with an actual book.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, that was the first. So I'll be honest, I kind of turned up my nose to self-publishing initially, because I'd had a publisher, so why am I gonna downgrade to self-publishing? But now, there's really no need for publishers anymore. Really not, because I
Really?
make a higher
Okay.
royalty.
Mhm.
To me, the only time you would want a publisher is if you want to be a part of their brand. That's good and fine, but if you're not concerned with the brand, it's so much better just to self-publish more, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, here's the thing, a lot of people, if you're smart enough, you can brand yourself. If you have a good following, if you've got, your proper websites and, just like I do for everybody else. I know a lot of people that want to do that. Like I work on individual levels, like actors and stuff who don't even want to deal with their stuff because they get so many stupid messages from fans. I could write a book about that.
Yeah.
And so, I think people now are savvy to just do it themselves. I think, that should be a no-brainer. If you're good at writing, I think it'd be no problem to write, captions for your own stuff.
Yeah.
Is my
I think the
thought.
trick is you need to be good with graphic design, and if you're not, you need to get somebody that is, and that's because
Right.
you've got to have a nice professional looking cover.
Hmm. So
That's
when you
wrong.
first wrote your first book, did you have a publisher? Like who helped you? Because I mean, I talk about writing a book all the time. I've just not done it. But like, what steps would you encourage fellow potential writers on how to publish their first book?
Sure. Well, like I said, it just like fiction is really difficult. Fiction when it's successful is really successful. It's Harry Potter successful where you become a millionaire. But most fiction is usually just a hobby, and you publish it and some of your friends like it. So I mean, I think you need to be prepared if you want to do fiction that, it's really one in a million that you'll ever catch on. And I've never done fiction myself yet. I might here pretty soon, but in terms of breaking into nonfiction, that's easy because you just find a topic that people are already interested in that you're also interested in, and
Hmm.
just write a book with your, unique spin on it. Um, but I mean, again, I guess if you're into like history, traditional history, history press is really great to get your foot in the door. They give you a format to follow, an allotted page count. And of course, they'll lay out your book and design it. And um, I don't want to say that their standards aren't high. I wouldn't say that. It's just History Press and Arcadia, they know that their format sells. So if you
Hmm.
give them a decent book, they'll make it look pretty and they know that it'll sell. So that's why it's not like you have to be a published author already usually to get in with them. They're very smart and savvy with their business formula.
Right.
And then after that, it's a little bit easier to branch out on your own.
Hmm.
That way you get some establishment.
Right. You've covered a wide variety of topics. I mean, I I literally looked at your list and I'm like, I could read all of these because this is all
Oh,
things that
well, I'm
interest.
glad. Thank you. Yeah, it's all kind of aside from the history, it's all kind of weird type stuff.
Yeah, like the number 22, the lizardmen, swamp monsters, and other
Yeah.
curious creatures of the old South. What inspired you to write that one?
So that's
Because I've
part of a
never heard
series.
of lizardmen or swamp monsters.
Yeah. Well, it's part of a series. The first one, well, years ago, my co-author and I, we did, like I said, the real Cowboys and Aliens, and I always wanted to do a similar book on dinosaurs because there's a lot of articles about cowboys shooting dinosaurs, and it's in the realm of what's called cryptozoology, which is the study of undiscovered animals like Bigfoot and things like that. It's stuff that a lot of people see, but you can't actually prove that it exists. And remnant dinosaurs are part of that category. So again, a lot of those articles from the Old West are most likely hoaxes, but not all of them. Because you got to think if you find okay cave paintings of dinosaurs where there shouldn't be,
Hmm.
and you have people today that claim they see dinosaurs in lakes pretty often. So to me, it makes sense that some of those articles from the Old West that everybody thinks are a hoax, some of them, are probably real because people have claimed to have seen Bigfoot and dinosaurs and aliens since the beginning of time. None of it's new. So what I did with that series was I get the articles and I research the names of the witnesses. I determine whether or not they were real, what else they did in real life to kind of try and ascertain if they were, big storytellers. And you just try to give the reader some information as to whether or not this crazy story about the cowboys who shot a dinosaur was real or not. And the most famous one is some cowboys allegedly shot a pterodactyl outside of Tombstone, Arizona in 1890. But yeah, so the first book was very basic. Second book was kind of a spin-off about articles about Ice Age animals. And as I was researching, I kept finding a lot of unique articles from the South. So I thought, well, the South could be its own book. So that's why
Mhm.
there's Southerners and Saurians, is it's, part three of a series. And I've actually
Nice.
found so many of those weird old articles, I've got 10 titles lined up because there's literally that many.
Do you think there's something in bottomless lakes because there's so many drownings there?
Well, I got some interesting stories about bottomless lakes from people. And the lifeguard there told me there was giant catfish, but that was about all I heard from them. So I
Hmm.
don't I don't know about bottomless lakes.
Yeah, I know that some people have said that those, again, underground tunnels, underground water tunnels, that maybe those go under into Carlsbad, and people have drowned in. I think that's a tall tale. I don't even know if that's really
Yeah, it's
real, but
totally not true because I asked somebody who would know about it, like one of the park rangers or somebody told me that's 100% not true, but it's a really neat story.
I wonder how. I mean, I guess people exaggerate. I think that was
Yeah.
probably. I don't know. I always freaked out swimming in that lake because I remember I went for a trip somewhere, and I don't know, something about that is very odd. I think because it's dark, you can't really see. That's kind
Yeah.
of why I don't go into the ocean either. I live here in the ocean, and I don't. Something about water and creatures just freaks me out. Like that's just
Me
not the
too.
way I plan my exit. Oh, that's great. So with all of these amazing titles and everything, I mean, what is your plan for the future? What topics are you going to tackle without spilling your entire plan?
Well, the most successful books I've found so far that people like the most, I like to do film history, particularly on lost films that were either shot and then lost, or they were scripts that were written and never produced.
Hmm.
So my biggest seller was a book I did on King Kong called Kong Unmade, which is all about the unmade Kong movies.
Right.
Then I got the idea to maybe do Jaws Unmade around last Christmas, and I started writing it. And I didn't realize that this summer would be Jaws' 45th anniversary.
Hmm.
I I didn't even think of that, but I ended up releasing that one this summer, and it's been one of maybe the best-selling book I've done so far, from
Hmm.
what I can tell, because it's really outselling the others, which kind of surprised me. And I also do a little fanzine, which is a fan-produced magazine called the Lost Films Fanzine. So
Okay.
just a lot of lost media type stuff. That's what I really enjoy, and that's probably a lot of what I'll keep doing in the future. And as I said, more of those cowboys and dinosaurs, aliens books, and the cryptozoology, ufology realm, and then also some more. Basically, everything I've already done, I'll keep on doing it for the foreseeable future.
Right. Nice. Now I know in the past, when before COVID, I think you were pretty much involved with the city somehow. I know that you were intertwined
Mostly
with committees or
historical
something.
museum, yeah, mostly historical museum and leadership Roswell, and
Hmm.
yeah, and our historical museums have been very fortunate. We're not allowed to open under the law, but we're still open. I mean, in other words, we haven't gone bankrupt. We're a private entity with no ties to the city, and
Right.
we've managed to actually stay alive. So that's great.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun with. When I worked at the Daily Record. I was there for about a year. I was Vista's editor. From what I've seen in the past, it does not do justice the way I did it. I think I did a great job as Vista's editor because I did something pretty daring. I did a lot of color. I did a lot of, I had one C1 was a full page, so I had a blast getting creative on it. So I remember going through the historical museum and talking to them over there, and it was it makes me happy that institutions like that are still alive in Roswell. I think our history has to be preserved in the best way possible, and they're doing a great job doing it.
Yeah, well, if you stay in Roswell long enough, I also think you should do the Leadership Roswell program. I think you'd enjoy it. Just get kind of a
Oh,
peek behind the scenes tour of the city.
Is that one that with the lawyers? Oh God, I interviewed that guy.
Yeah, Rick Kraft. Yeah, that's Rick Kraft.
Yeah. So it's like thing you set up and then you go out on a trip for a couple days and you come back and you become like a leader or some shit.
Yeah. It's once a month. It's once a month, like the last Friday of the month, I think. And it's you just tour stuff. You
Okay.
or Leprino if you're lucky, and like
Really?
go to Fletsy. They'll take you on a car chase at Fletsy. It's fun.
Cool.
Yeah.
I know I've flown over Leprino when I flew in from Dallas down into Roswell. I was like, it's a cool view seeing Roswell from the sky. But I know at one point you were part of the Galactic Con, or did you just, I don't know, because I remember you were trying to.
I was just they couldn't get rid of me, and I was always there every year. But I was never ever on the board or anything like that. But I help them however they'll let me usually.
That's cool. I'm glad that you've, created those types of connections with, with the city, and, you're helping save the history as well with what you're writing.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's fun. I enjoy it. So.
That's cool. All right. Well, I think I'm going to wrap it up here. John, where can people find you and your books?
Just type in my last name on Amazon under books, and it's I guess it's on screen right now, as you can see, LeMay.
Yeah.
And I've got an author page. Everything will pop up. I don't have a actual website. I just haven't really seen a need for one yet. But yeah, just type that in on Amazon or on Facebook. I have John LeMay's Lost Films page. If that interests you, that's another little thing I have going on. But that's about it.
All right, cool. Stay on the line when I end this broadcast, because I do have a question for you about your lost scripts. Brendan and Brendan Brazier with 1DR Productions has a script that he pitched to Saban, and when he met me, I love the story so much, and it's again Power Rangers, but I love the script so much that I was trying to find people at Hasbro to send this to, and I found some people. And then we lost the connections, but I do have an update on that I want to talk to you about.
Cool.
So.
Yeah.
All right, well, that wraps it up. I didn't want to waste up too much of John's time. He's got other things to do and things to see. But thank you guys so much. Don't forget to like, comment, and go check out John's books. They're amazing. And that's it for me. So thank you, John. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, Martha.
All right. Bye, everybody.